Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. Today I'll be showing you how to build this rustic windmill. This spacious windmill would make a great house or a farming base, or you could use it alongside other builds in a medieval town. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind that you're going to want to have a few extra for each material, and I recommend getting quite a bit extra of the smooth sandstone. That'll make texturizing easier. Here is the outline for today's build. You can see it's essentially a circle with an interior diameter of 9 blocks across. Keep in mind that you'll want to allow about 5 blocks of space to either side of this build for the sections of the windmill that stick out from the outline of this base. We're going to begin this build using some stripped spruce logs, and we're going to build up 5 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on either side of these 5 wide sections around the circle. So you can see that there's a 3 wide gap between them on these flat sides, and then a 2 block gap between the diagonals. You should end up with a total of 8 posts, like this. Now we're going to start filling in the walls between them. I'm going to come in and place in a spruce door. I'm going to need to break this to place in my floor later, but I'll have this in for now. Then I'm going to use a mixture of some moss, some mossy stone brick, and some cracked stone brick to fill in the walls, as well as some regular stone brick. You can see I'm fading up between the moss and the mossy stone brick at the base, and then we're mixing in some stone brick to give it a more aged appearance. And don't be afraid of breaking and replacing blocks until you end up with a look you're happy with. There we go. You want to try and have each panel be a little bit different, so just work your way around in a circle and try to avoid symmetry here. And we're on to our very last panel now. You can see I've been looking across the build to this section that's on the opposite side to make sure I'm not matching that. And let's go up, fill in this block. Let's put a mossy one over here, I think, and I'll move that stone brick up there. And perfect. And I'll just check that these 2 panels are not the same when looking from the front. You can really see the shape of the build here, and we've got all of our base walls in. Now we're going to go in and add in our floor. So I'm going to remove my door temporarily so I can place an andesite block underneath that. Then I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of this lower level. Now of course you could use whatever flooring material you like. I really like the tiled look of these polished andesite. It works really well for the basement level of builds like this. And then I'll be using spruce for the floors going up. We're almost there filling that in. There we go, and I'm just going to pop a few torches around. Next, I'm going to grab some spruce planks, and I'll grab a placeholder block so I can place the spruce plank over the top of this gap. And I'm just going to follow along the outline of this build, or rather inline of this build, as we're going on the interior of the circle. And connect it up, and you should be left with something that looks like this. I'm next going to add in my ladder to reach the next story, so I'm going to come and stand at the back of the build underneath this block and place in a row of trapdoors like this so I can place my ladders on them. Now I don't think you can place ladders on trapdoors in bedrock, so you could easily place some blocks going up here, or perhaps hang a vine down from the very top once you've completed the height of the build. I can then fill in the rest of this space with some spruce slabs. And this is going to be the floor for the next story and provide some interesting detail for the roof below. As you can see, it has this nice sloped shape. Next, we're going to start building our tower on top of this platform. We're going to be aiming to create a look like this. It has a textured and aged appearance. You can see it's as if the sandstone is worn away to reveal the brick. But we're going to start by building just with the smooth sandstone, and then we'll go ahead and add the texture in afterwards. You can see I've also got some wool here to act as a placeholder block. I'm going to be adding this in, and then we can go ahead and add in our glass and doors after we've got our walls in. I'm going to start by creating this same panel on all of the walls, leaving a gap for a window. Now you can of course add in your glass as you go, but I just find it useful to kind of do it all at the end. Then I'm going to build up 2 high in these corners like this, creating little L shapes. And I'll build up 2 high on just these points here, leaving out the very corners of the build. Like that. Now we're going to come in and curve over the top of these points. There we go, and I'm going to use some placeholder blocks here, just to fill in these corners to the same height. You can see we have a much smaller circle now. Next, I'm going to add in my locations for some doors as well as some windows here and here. So the windows are at the front and back with the doors to either side. And then I'll build up 7 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way around. If you're enjoying today's video, I'd really appreciate if you check out my Patreon. Over there you can get some awesome benefits like custom build tutorials, world downloads, and access to an exclusive server where you can play alongside me as well as some other awesome builders. And we're almost at the top here. There we go. Now we can start flaring this tower back out to match the shape at the bottom. To do this, I'm going to be placing in a brown wool here and adding in my smooth sandstone. Now on the 2 sides and the back of the build, we're going to add in a gap for a window. And then I'm going to build around it like this. Up and around. And again. There we go. Then at the front, we're going to create the same shape, except we are going to fill in the window and include it in the wall like this. Now I need to fill in these gaps. To do this, I'm just going to build 1 on top all the way around, and I can break my placeholder blocks here for the walls. Now to fill in these gaps, I'm going to use another placeholder block to build out to either side and build up to the top. Oops, I nearly fell down my tower. A good idea in survival for building towers like this is to set up a scaffolding platform going all the way around the base of your build. Then you can build up layer by layer as you go. And also if you fall, you're not going to fall all the way down to the bottom. To finish off this tower and make it match the shape at the bottom, I'm just going to add in 1 more block in each of these corners. And let's take a look at the finished shape. You can see we've got all of our windows in place now. And we're ready to start adding texture. You'll want to have some smooth sandstone, regular sandstone, and some bricks here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in some bricks, and then you want the sandstone kind of nearby to the bricks. And you'll just want to play around with the texture, keeping the shape of the build the same until you end up with a look you're happy with. The distribution of bricks to sandstone to smooth sandstone is entirely up to you. You'll see I'm kind of jumping between sections of the build here, taking a step back to make sure I like how it's all coming together. And I'll just keep working around until I'm happy with the finished look. I like to think about where the build might wear the most. So up here is where we're going to have our sail coming out of, so I'm going to add some extra wear and tear around this part of the wall. Like that. I think around the doorways would probably age a little bit faster. So I'm going to add some extra sandstone and bricks around here. And I think up towards the top of the build and down at the base might have a bit more wear. Alright, let's take a step back and see how this is going. I might add just a few more bricks at the top here, and I think I'm happy with the finished product. And I like how that looks. Now I'm going to go ahead and break my windows and replace them with some white stained glass. I like using white stained glass, I just think it has a more aged appearance, but you could just as easily use regular glass. I've got all the windows on that level. We've got to get these windows at the top next. There we go, and I'll put in my doors as well using some spruce. Here's how the windmill tower should look. Now we can start adding the sections that come off of this main part of the tower. I'm going to be coming to this left side here where we've got our door to start adding in a section here. I'm going to line myself up with the base below this door and count out 6 blocks with my slabs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll do this on the other side as well. I'll then just fill in the rest of this rectangle and we've got our platform ready to build on. Okay, let's go in with some walls next. I'm going to build up 4 high, 1, 2, 3, 4 on these 2 corners. I'll then count across 3, 1, 2, 3, taking me to here and build up 4 as well. And then I'll just connect up all of these beams. Now we need to add in some windows and some walls in these spaces. Once again, I'm going to be using a mixture of my brick and my sandstone, and since this shape is less complicated, I can leave out the gap as I go and add my texture. So we've got a window on both sides here. Like this. And then on this end wall, I'm just going to go straight across the bottom, leaving a 2x3 gap in this space. Just like that. I'm also going to add in a small gable here. So I'll just place in my blocks like this. And we've got our little point in. Next I need to fill in these gaps, and I need to keep in mind how my texture meets up with the wall beside it. Like that, and on this side. There we go, and you should be left with a section that looks like this, and like this from the front. Continuing on with these spruce slabs, I'm going to come to the doorway on the other side and build out 2 blocks like that. I'll come to the back of the build and do the same thing, and next we need to fill in these corners. I'll build out 2 like this, and then 2 again to create this kind of corner shape with it cut off. Over to this side, I'll do the same thing, so I'm going to come out 2 and I'll build out 2 again like this so it matches, and then I'll add in 1 more there. So you can see it's like we've continued around this pattern, but then we've run into the wall of that part of the build. On this side, however, I'm going to come across just 1 out and then meet up with the build as if we had on the other side. So it's going to look like this, and I'll do the same over here, just extending it around. And I'm going to make sure everything is symmetrical, keeping in mind that we've cut off the 3 that would be at the front here. Alright, we've got our balcony in, onto the next step. I'm going to come down to this base part of the build to start adding in the roof. I'm going to go in with some spruce stairs to begin with, and I'm placing these so they're facing towards the corner and are upside down. There we go, we've come all the way around the build now. Next I'll add a stair on top of each of these stairs like this. And I'll add in a block behind. Finally, I'm going to add in some more stairs in these gaps here. Next, we're going to be switching over to some copper. The first layer of slabs is going to go at the same layer as these stairs, and then we'll fill in the gap here, and I'll do these flat sides to begin with. Now I've got my copper pre-waxed, but you could also go in with just the plain unwaxed cut copper slabs, and then you'll have the aging texture as it starts to oxidize. Next we need to work on these corners. I'm going to start by placing in 2 slabs here and here, and then I'm going to create a little W shape like this to fill in the rest. I'll also place in 2 spruce slabs on either side. And here's how the roof of this lower section of the build should look. Now I'm going to grab some spruce stairs and come over to this side of the build. I'm going to create a little support by zigzagging my stairs coming upwards all the way up to the top, and then I'll place in 2 slabs just to finish it off like that. I'm going to come to this front of the build here, and I'm going to build up 5 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, either side of this part of the wall, and I'll add a stair on top. And this is going to be where we have our windmill coming out of. So I'm going to grab some more of these strip spruce logs, come right above the window here, and I'm going to build out 4 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Now let's add the roof onto this part of the build. I'm going to start by grabbing out some of my waxed cut copper slabs, and I'm going to come along the build here, leaving out this gap and placing in 1 here. In this gap I'll place in a spruce slab. Then we'll come up with some stairs going up 2 high, and I'll do this on the other side as well. Here I'm going to extend it 1 extra so it meets up with the side of the build. Next I'm going to grab out some stairs, and I'm going to follow along the shape of this roof up to the top, like this. I'm going to grab some more spruce here and create an outline for this roof. And I'll place some stairs underneath for a more finished look, as well as some slabs here and here. And then to finish off the top of the roof, I'll grab a few more slabs. I'm going to run them along the top like this and then create a point using some stairs. Oh, and don't forget to fill in this gap here with a copper stair, and I've already done it on the other side. Here's how it should look. Now onto the very pointy roof at the top. I'm going to be grabbing my spruce stairs to begin with and creating an outline going all the way around. You can see everything's connecting up, and we're creating a slightly larger outline of the same shape of the tower. So it should look like this from above. Before we put the actual roof on, let's head inside the build, and we're going to add in our floors and our ladders. So our next floor is going to be at this height here. For this, I'm going to be using some spruce slabs, and I'm going to start going around the outline, and I'm going to leave out this block here for where I'm going to add in my ladder. I can jump back down to the floor below now. Add in a couple torches as I go, and like we did down here, I'm going to come underneath this block and add in a few trapdoors. You'll see this final trapdoor is actually going to be kind of over the top of our ladder, so I'm placing in a placeholder block to add it in like this. Then I can have my ladder going up to the next story. There we go. For our next story, we're going to find where our window is, which is here, and fill in the floor above it like this. I like to have my floors spaced so it's 1 block below the window. That way you can easily walk up and look out of it. Alright, then I'm going to make sure I line up my ladder with the ladder below and run it up the height of the wall. And there we go. Now it's up to you when we add in this roof whether you turn it into 2 floors or leave it with a kind of pointed roof within this floor. I think I'm going to leave it with the high ceiling so I can stop my ladder here. For this roof, we're going to start by creating some spruce outlines. I'm going to be placing in a spruce block on top of the slab, then I'll come up on a diagonal and add a stair on top of that. Then I'm going to do that once more, block and then a stair, and once more after that. Block and stair. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go up 2 blocks. 1, 2. It's a little hard to see because my blocks have gone invisible, so we'll be right back. There we go, now we can see. So we've got block, block, stair, block, stair, block, stair, block, block, stair, and this is going to bring us to the center of the roof. So I'm just going to build up 3 high with my planks. Now I'm going to create the same outline on all the other sides. Having some placeholder blocks is very helpful here. And you can always check your pattern by looking at the other sides of the build. And it should meet up in the center. One thing to keep in mind is making sure that you're centered on each of these faces as you go. If not, you're going to have a wonky roof. onto the last side. The fantastic thing about dividing a roof up like this is it means that we can work on the next part of the curved roof, which can be quite complicated, by breaking it into sections. There we go. I can now go ahead and break all of these placeholder blocks. And let's get adding in some copper. I'm going to be using waxed cut copper blocks, stairs and slabs here, but I'll just be referring to them as blocks, stairs and slabs. I'm going to start by placing my blocks in like this, then I'll go in with some slabs. Each of these corners is the same, so once we've got one, you can replicate this on the other side. Next I'll go in with some blocks and some stairs, and I'll place in some blocks behind these stairs and fill in this gap with a slab. Onto the next layer, I'll place my stairs facing outwards like this. Then I'll go behind them with a block and fill in this gap with another block. I'm going to place a stair on top of here and here. Build up one higher with my cut copper. And then I'm going to come behind here. You can use a placeholder block to put these in and put in one here and one here. I'll place stairs on top of that and then fill in this little gap at the top with a couple of these blocks of copper. I'm building up 3 high. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove my placeholder blocks, and I'm going to work on the next face of this build, which once again is just the same. And there we go, the spire of our roof is finished. For the next part of the build, I've come down to the front door. I'm going to line myself up with these posts and build 2 sets of trapdoors like this. You can check you have got these in the right place, as you should be able to place blocks directly beside them inside. Now we're going to make our little roof by zigzagging some stairs coming up the height. Just like that, and we'll do that on both sides. For the center, I'm going to go in with some spruce planks here and then a spruce stair. I'll place some slabs over the top, and then I'm going to replace this slab with a stair and flick it out like this to match the roof line that we've got going on that part of the build. Next, I'll come underneath and add in some spruce fences and a lantern for some light. Doesn't that look adorable? Next, we're going to work on the railing that's going to go around this section of the build. To do this, we're going to be using some placeholder blocks as well as some oak trapdoors. I'm going to be starting by placing 3 along this way so I can place my trapdoors on the outer layer. I'm also going to come to this front section of the build and I'll go 5 across here. Or rather 7, so I'm going all the way across the build. Next, we need to start filling in these corners. So for this, I'm going to be placing the 2 trapdoors going on either side here, as well as here. And I'll do this on these sides as well, and over here. Now we need to fill in this gap, so I'll place in some brown wool and just surround it with some trapdoors. Let's do that over here too. Let's come around and finish off this side with some trapdoors. there we go, we've got a railing that goes all the way around. Now of course, if you have some of your trapdoors placed the other way, like this, you can see it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the overall look of the build. It just depends on where you want to place things on this balcony. So of course, where you have your trapdoors placed on top of the balcony, you won't be able to place something in that location. So I'll move those back out. Next, let's work on some windows. I'm going to come over and fill in the glass in these two sides. And next we're going to work on a little window that sticks out from this gap. I'll place 3 slabs along the bottom and 2 white glass in the center with a slab on top. Then I'll have some white stained glass panes on either side with a trapdoor on top of those. And then I'll add a trapdoor to either side like this to fill in the gap. And you should see this should make a little window box. Now for all the 2 high windows on this build, I'm going to go in with these brown banners decorated to look like window shutters. We've got the windows up the top as well. And I think we've got all of our 2 high windows now. For the 1 high windows, I'm going to be using oak trapdoors. And these have a similar look to the custom window shutters we created with the banners. There we go, I think we've got all of our 1 high windows now. Next, we want to create some decoration for this doorway. I'm going to come over and add in some stairs like this and create a similar little flick to we have on the other small roofs. Here's how it should look. Next, let's build the very important sail for our windmill. I'm going to be using white wool and some spruce fences here, and it's useful to have some sort of placeholder block. I'm going to come to 1 block in from the edge here, and you should see that we are 1 block out from the edge of the roof. I'm going to start by building up 3 high, 1, 2, 3 with my white wool. Then I'll come up and build up 4 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 high again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this. Then I'll count 2 blocks up and I'll build 3 high from here, 1, 2, 3. From here, I'll go up 2 high, so it should end up level. And then I'm going to create a little L shape at the end like this. Now the tricky part here is rotating this shape round so it looks like the sails are spinning. So I'm going to place in my fence and I'm going to continue this pattern, starting with 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then the little L shape. And you can see that they're matching, just rotated. Let's continue doing this. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. I definitely find counting really helps here. And you can always take a step back and check that your sails match. On to the very last one here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. And let's check, do they all match? Perfect! Next we're going to grab some more spruce fences and we're going to run them along one side of these sails, having them extend one out over the edge. And the last one. And you can see this small detail really makes a big difference. Okay, let's add in some finishing details now and decorate this build. I'm just adding the last finishing touch to this build. I'm putting a dark oak button here on the windmill. I've also gone ahead and added a hanging lantern from here, and if we step back, you can see I've done some serious decorating. So let's check out what I've done. Now of course, a big windmill like this one would feel right at home amongst the wheat fields, so I've gone with a really swooping rolling hill design covered in wheat. You can see that I've kept the wheat relatively far away from the front of the windmill. It comes up a little closer behind, but I have left some space. This means you can really see all the detail that's going on. You'll also see that I've gone with a really natural planting scheme, and this works really well with this rustic style of build. I've got tiers of wheat here, which adds dimension with a relatively flat colored landscape. And so it is the texture of the layers here that are really showing through. You can also see the hint of dirt poking through between those layers. As for the rest of the greenery around this build, I've stuck to just that. Lots of green as well as a little hint of white here and there. I've got lots of grass growing up alongside this pathway, and for the pathway I've used gravel as well as some dead coral blocks for more texture. I've gone with some simple planting using some leaves and some ferns, and then I've carried these leaves up around the base of the build here, and I've draped them down the roof. You can see they have a very vine-like appearance, and they're hanging right off the edge of the point and off of this smaller section as well. I've come down to the front of the pathway so we can take a walk up this little lane towards our windmill. You can see I've created these little lights using some spruce materials to tie in with the build. I've gone and created a little fresh baked goods stall selling some cookies, breads and cakes made with flour from the mill. If we come up this way, I've created a little hay storage shed. And over this side, I've got some bales of hay as well as a hay cart. Now, if you're looking for some decorations to use around this build as well as many other builds, check out the links in the description down below. If we come over this way, I've got a well for watering all of this wheat. And you can see I've stuck to spruce for all of these decorations so it all ties together. Of course, I've got some friendly little scarecrows here in the wheat field, and they tie in with the lighting scheme using the jack-o'-lanterns. I've also illuminated this build using frog lights in the water, some lanterns on the fences, over here as well on our lights, and then I've got lights dotted around the actual build itself. So that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!